So, we're living in a South Africa, or should I say, economy, where people still cannot afford housing. They cannot afford to purchase, if I put it in that perspective. So, what do people do? Obviously, if you can afford to rent, you go ahead and do that. But what is the process? What do you do? How do you apply? What happens if you break that lease agreement? Don't worry, we just got you covered. What's up, everyone? My name is Dijesh, and for those of you that don't know, I have been in the property industry for the past 8 to 9 years. Sometimes I say 9 to 10 years, but I've lost track. You get my drift. I've been in the industry for a long time. I have a holistic view of real estate, and I basically talk about various aspects. And I've been in various realms of real estate, from development, sales, rentals, as well as the sectional title management of real estate. Now, today's video is all about rentals, laws behind rentals, what happens when you break a lease agreement. And Dijesh, what right do I have as a tenant and a landlord? This is where I give you some of the inside information as to what happens in this. So first of all, if you're a tenant obviously looking for a property, you need to start with the application process. So assuming you found a place that you like, assuming that you found the place and you want to apply for it, you first of all, depending on this, obviously, and hopefully you guys go through a broker or a real estate agent, because they will fast track this process. You will then, with this broker, submit a couple of documents. What are those documents? You need to submit your ID, your bank statement, and obviously you need to fill out a rental application form, where the rental agent and the rental company will check your bank statements to see if you can actually afford that place. They will do a credit check to see if your credit is in good history, if you've paid your payments on time, whatever accounts you may have open, obviously to see if you are a good payer in accordance to what you owe, as well as checking your identity to see if you're an actual person. Now, if you're obviously going to be renting in a business capacity, you would need to submit obviously the director's details, company registration, and the same process would apply, but just with your company documents. So that's pretty much the straightforward part. A lot of different companies charge a rental application fee. So you would pay a non-refundable amount for them to actually check and see how much you qualify for, your credit check, and obviously you do get that credit report as well once they issue it to that, actually once the rental agent gets it and they have that copy in front of them. So you haven't been approved. Well, unfortunately, you'd have to look in a different budget, or maybe look around and see for something priceless. But in the event you actually, qualify for that specific place and that price range, you will then move on to the next step. So the next step is the rental agreement, or signing your rental agreement. Usually what the rental agent will say is that you've then got to pay a first month's rent, a deposit equivalent to the first month's rent, as well as a lease application fee. So that's like an admin fee. Obviously you pay those prior to you moving in. So what will happen is you'll sign the documents, you'll pay your deposit, you'll pay your rental, you'll pay your admin fee, and then all well and good, you move in on the stipulated date as per your agreement, and boom, you're in a new place, you're there, and you've got a place to stay in. What happens now in terms of your relationship between your landlord, your agent, and yourself? So let's just say if you went directly to a landlord, and obviously you're dealing directly with the landlord, you will deal everything, you would obviously call the landlord for various instances, and you'll be dealing directly with the landlord. If you have a rental agent in check, you can either have a rental agent that manages that property on a month-to-month basis. So that rental agent will obviously collect your rent and then pay that off to the landlord. That is what we in the industry call a managed lease. Or you could have, the agent do the credit checks, do the necessary documents, filling out, put you in there, and then thereafter you pay directly to the landlord every month. That is what we also call a procurement or non-managed lease. Either way, doesn't really matter what sort of lease you sign up. You're still liable for the rent, and you are still going to pay to the landlord. When it comes to that situation where you break that lease agreement by not paying, this is where it gets a little technical in terms of legal jargon. I'm not going to get into the legalities or the technical legalities of it, but I'm going to give you an overview of the process. So let's just say your lease agreement says you've got to pay your rent by the first of the month, right? If you don't pay it by the first, you have up until 7 days to pay. If you don't pay your rent by 7 days, you're deemed to be in arrears. Now, at this point in time, obviously, the landlord can now give you notice, or the landlord can approach any sort of attorney to give you a notice saying that you've got to come up to speed with your rent. They can also approach the tribunal because they technically cannot evict you immediately. They've got to follow this legal process, or this process of trying to get you to pay your rent first. So you have until 7 days. They'll give you 7 days to pay. They can hit you with a notice that will say, please, will you make right? And please, will you come up to speed with your payments? And let's just say you don't pay your rent for a month. This is where they can approach the court to get an order to officially evict you. So yes, there's a lot of processes in between when they're applying to the court, but the landlord will go to the court, or he may ask his rental agent to assist with that process. They'll get that order, and they'll obviously hand you that order to evict the premises. Technically you've breached a contract, so you've got to abide by that court order. And obviously that order might stipulate that you've got to pay damages as well as pay your rental before you leave. And also keep in mind that now your landlords can actually go and blacklist you, the credit bureau. So that's a separate application that they've got to do. They can get the legal advice for that, but that's going to hinder your application for any other rental, because now what happens is when you do a check with another company, they're going to pick that up that you didn't pay your rent in a previous place, and that's sort of like red flags if you want to call it, for them to not take you as a tenant on their books. So that's pretty much a summarized version of what happens when you don't pay your rent. There's a lot of instances where you can obviously appeal and say, I'm out of a job, or, there's instances, logical reasons as to why you cannot pay your rent. COVID was one of them. But obviously there is now a separate legal process for that. In terms of that, that's purely based on, the Disaster Management Act and what has come into effect during the COVID-19 pandemic. But yes, that is essentially how you can obviously say, I cannot pay for a certain period of time until I get myself back up on my feet. But that is purely in special instances. It doesn't happen all the time. So you don't want to be that type of person that gets evicted. Pay on time, be a good tenant. For a landlord, remember, you do have legal options. If your tenant does not pay, you go the eviction route. And unfortunately, you got to do what you got to do. If you got to blacklist them, go ahead and do it. If you're a tenant that pays on time and you have a good relationship with your landlord or agent and you cannot pay, I would say the best approach for you is to actually be honest and say, look, I cannot pay it. Can I make some sort of payments or payment arrangement towards my rental until I can catch up with it? Something to that effect. You never know. The landlord might just be happy and accept that. So honesty is the best policy. This is a short, quick video on rentals. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you do need any more information, I will be putting some information or links to certain sites for rentals in the description below. Please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. I'll be giving more real estate content, and I hope you guys enjoy my videos. I'll see you in the next one.